Downs. Ever since it was mooted that the race would be at Hampton Downs, all the experts were saying this would be the leveller. Top contenders in the Superbikes, Andrew Stroud and Robbie Bugden would go at it, and the points in the 600s were as close as you could be. Hamilton's Nick Cole up against the mainland's James Smith on the Suzuki. Who would win? It would come down to the final race. Nick Cole is the challenger on the Red Devil Racing Kawasaki. This means such a lot to the man from Hamilton.
You've got a good team behind you, you've got your dad helping you out, of course, and you've got some good engineers. What would it mean to you to win this?
Oh, it's years and years of hard work, really, that build up to us. A lot of sponsors I've got to thank. I can't thank them enough. It's sort of going to be no words to describe, I think. So I think I was about to tell you at the end of the day, sort of don't want to say too much right now. I haven't started yet.
Christchurch's James Smith was conflicted. He was riding the Superbikes, but he was close to the title in the 600 sports production class.
600 is definitely the priority. I really want to win it. I want to win it real bad. I definitely don't want to come second for the third time in a row. Nick's been going really good. He's actually been a little bit faster than me this weekend so far. But I'm real comfortable with the pace that I'm running, and it's, we're only talking a couple of hundreds. So I'm just sort of looking forward to seeing how the race pans out. This track's, it's going to be a handful with all the hairpins that it has. So it'll definitely be a lot of passing and a lot of elbows, I suspect.
Well, this is the first of the two 600 sports production races, and it is close as can be. And you've got to know the backstory, because at the Manfield round, the previous round, there was a protest and James Smith is riding under a bit of a cloud. I'm joined once again by Jamie McCarthy in commentary as these bikes tip into turn one. And Jamie, that's going to be a problem for some of these guys as well. The blind brows and the hairpin corners.
Well, it's a combination of the likes of Phillip Island, even Laguna Seca to a certain extent through that infield hairpin. But it is a wonderful motor racing circuit. I, for one, have been really looking forward to seeing the 600s and the Superbikes and all of these classes racing at Hampton Downs for the Castrolls.
Oh, there's problems already. Glenn Scatchell, he's rubbed James Smith, and I think they've both come down. Yes, they have. Well, James Smith, you heard him say in the interview, he didn't want to finish second again. Is he going to do it? There it is on the replay. Scatchell just got in a little bit too deep, I think, Jamie.
Well, it looked like he did, and the bike just got unsettled and just ran into the side of James Smith.
Well, there is the outcome. Smith and Glenn Scatchell down, the Suzuki runners. This man, well, he'll be rubbing his hands with glee if he knows what's gone on behind him, because Nick Cole was so close in points to James Smith, and now no more James Smith and no more Glenn Scatchell. Scatchell could have played a spoiling role in this. He could have separated the two in the point situation, but that's all conjecture now, and now Kawasaki's Nick Cole has got to go ahead and win this race.
On board here with Cole looking over the rear tyre of the Kawasaki. This is the run up the hill past the apartments.
And look at the lead he's got already as we complete one lap around this amazing circuit. It's been the leveller. Well, it was a leveller in practice as well, and it will be in the racing. What these guys have got to contend with, and if they haven't raced overseas, they'll have no idea about it, is the uphills and the downhills, the elevation changes, the camber changes in the corners. New Zealand hasn't got a motor racing track like the one we've got here at Hampton Downs.
Well, unfortunately, that first lap incident's just taken a little bit off this race for the 600s with Scatchell and Smith going down. Nick Cole was the top qualifier at a 106.226, and he was only 1/100th of a second quicker than Scatchell, with James Smith back in third, just 3/10 off the pole time.
Well, the racing continues, and we're watching this enthralling battle for second and third. Midge Smart on the Yamaha, and right in behind him on the RCM Coleman Suzuki, that is Carl Morgan. But Nick Cole, he's where he needs to be. He'll get the maximum 25 points here, but poor old James Smith, and to a certain extent Glenn Scatchell, will get nothing because they're in the sand at the end of turn one.
Well, what a way to start a weekend, but how cool is this motor racing circuit for these 600s? And just looking at the lap times, 106.2 for Cole. They're only about a second and a half slower than the Superbikes. Probably got some handling advantages being a little bit lighter with some of the tighter corners here at Hampton Downs.
Well, it's a bit of a trade-off, the lightness, because I was talking to the riders, because with all the elevation changes on the brows of the hills, the back tyre gets very light. That sets the bike up to go sideways. Look at this battle we got here. Number 4, that's Dennis Charlotte from Christchurch, finished 4th in the 600 sports production last year. With him, Dave Manuel from Auckland, and also Sam Love. Sam Love was the Pro Twins champion last year. He's made the move up to the 600. You see the yellow flags flying. There's the broken bike of Glenn Scatchell. There's this battle we're talking about. Charlotte right in the mix, but out on the front it's Cole.
Charlotte, also a former New Zealand 600 champion 2 seasons ago.
Well, that's right. He got his start in 125 racing, and he told me that the 125s taught him 2 things. Taught him to be comfortable in the close quarters racing, and it taught him to carry corner speed. And I guess corner speed is very important here at Hampton Downs.
So just looking at the lap times at the moment, Phil, the quick guys out in front have set their best laps fairly early. Midge Smart on lap 3, Nick Cole on lap number 4, and Cole can probably just afford to back off the pace a little bit and just conserve.
Well, he certainly can, because Midge Smart isn't really a factor in the championship. He hasn't done all the rounds, although he had a storming round at the penultimate round in Manfield on his R1 Yamaha. The man from Inglewood in the Taranaki was a sensation out here a couple of seasons ago on a 125, but then broke his collarbone quite badly. This battle continues. Sam Love and Dennis Charlotte going at it like there's no tomorrow. Charlotte, all the experience in the world. He is one of these racers that has raced overseas. But so too is Nick Cole. We're right with him here. And you see Midge Smart not really making too much of an impression. And there's what I mean with the elevation changes. The bikes get very light on the brows. And the other thing I guess you've got to contend with, Jamie, is because in a lot of cases here at Hampton Downs, those brows are blind. You can't see over the top of them.
Well, these guys, and I've heard it from the car guys, coming down to the hip, and the guys up the top of the hip, and can actually look down on the roofs of the cars down below, and I wonder if the bikes are the same, mind you. Probably a little bit more concentration with the lean going down to that hairpin turn.
Well, speaking of leaning, look at Sam Love leaning all over Dennis Charlotte here. This is the battle in for the minors, I guess you'd say. Charlotte just getting a little bit ahead. Approaching speeds of around about 270, 275 kilometres an hour, heading up past the start-finish line. Love dives up the inside as they go into turn 1. That's a very, very brave place to pass.
There was a couple of different lines through turn number 1. There's probably a passing lane and then there's the fast lane, but that's a big break off the end of that main straight because that turn off the brow. We've got another one down.
There's Carl Morgan. Well, he was running in 3rd place, but Auckland's Carl Morgan has come to grief. In the sand, you see here at Hampton Downs. Well, that has just let this man off the hook even more because Morgan was an outside chance of a podium finish. Nick Cole, his opposition is dropping like flies. Hamilton's Nick Cole has raced like a man possessed this season. On an aggressive training program, he has lost 15 kilograms during the off-season and upped his fitness level tenfold. With the support of his family-based team Red Devil Racing and Kawasaki, he will look to wrap up the title here at the final round. So we are down to the business end in the 600 sports production class here at the Castrol Power One New Zealand 2010 Superbike Road Racing Championships, and Nick Cole is going to take the maximum 25 points. Midge Smart, well, the forgotten man in 2nd place, he will go through in 2nd, and it'll be Dennis Charlotte in 3rd. And another man looking to gather some points here will be John Ross. He is an outside chance of a podium in this very closely contested 600 class. Costello pulls the checkered flag out for Nick Cole on the Kawasaki. 2nd place, as we said, will be Midge Smart from Taranaki on the Yamaha, and in 3rd place it'll be Suzuki's Dennis Charlotte. 4th place will go to Sam Love, and in 5th it's John Ross from Christchurch.
Yeah, I was a bit stunned when I saw that happen right in front of me. I was sort of glad I wasn't the one in the lead, so yeah, I don't think James is going to be too happy, but it's the way it goes, eh?
Well, just heading into the hairpin there, Glenn, he must have outbraked himself and he just sort of cleaned me out. I know he didn't mean to do it, and he probably feels quite bad about it, so it sucks for him, but I'm really, really disappointed. I didn't want to go out like that.
Welcome back to Hampton Downs. We are into the Superbike action now. And have a look at the points. Andrew Stroud on top, 178 to Robbie Bugden, 135. It's been a difficult season for the Australian. He's had all sorts of mechanical issues. But look how close it is for 3rd and 4th. Craig Sheriffs and James Smith on the Suzuki. Top Suzuki runner, though, is 7-time champion Andrew Stroud.
You've been quoted in the press saying that, OK, you got a 40-point lead, but you want to go out and win. You want to go out and dominate today.
Yeah, but at the same time, I still want to stay on, especially the first one. So I'll see what the pace is like and gauge it from there. But always be trying to win, looking for the space, but at the same time be trying to stay on.
3 times a champion in New Zealand, but it's not going to be that way in 2010 for Queensland's Robbie Bugden.
I guess now the championship's kind of out of my hands. I just really need to concentrate on this weekend. I just want to go out with a win. If I can win both races, I'll walk away happy, and we'll just see where the championship ends up. But, for me, I just want to win a couple of races and we'll see what happens.
Well, we are on board here with Sloane Frost on the second row of this big starting grid here at Hampton Downs. It's the final round of the Castrol Power 1 New Zealand Superbike Road Racing Championship. Not a great start for Sloane Frost, but a pretty good start for James Smith by the look of it. And I think that might have been Andrew Stroud just cutting off the water of Sloane Frost, so he hasn't got a good start either, Jamie.
Well, there were bikes in all sorts of different directions down there through turn number 1. We had a bike stall on the grid. Robbie Bugden, he did what he needed to do at qualifying. He was the top qualifier at a 1:04.593. Needs to win both races in hopes that something happens to Andrew Stroud to try and get title number 4.
Well, that's right. I talked to him before the racing started, and he said it's all about reclaiming a bit of pride on the RRR Suzuki Mack Trucks racing team for Red Fenton. 3 times he's come to New Zealand, 3 times he's left for the title. Whatever happens, he's not going to do it this time. The point spread is too great.
Great shots there with Sloane Frost. You can just see that elevation change, especially down off the hairpin.
Well, now you've got the situation where James Smith was concentrating on the 600 sports production class. He's riding the Superbikes as well. He's in the front of this field. That's him, number 77 on the RRR Suzuki. There's Bugden, his teammate, right in behind him. Andrew Stroud is coming. I wonder now if James Smith has decided maybe the 600's gone. I'm going to be second again. He's in a huge dogfight with Craig Shiras for third in the Superbike, so I just wonder if that's where his attention's now going to go.
Well, he's got nothing to lose and to be fired up after that off during the 600s. Stroud applying the pressure to Bugden. Fitzgerald back there in 4th. Craig Shiras notably with a struggle in qualifying. He only qualified 8, so he's got a little bit of work to do. So the advantage right now is with Smith for that battle for the 3rd points position.
Well, I can tell you the reason he didn't qualify well. He had 2 enormous accidents here. In fact, he's limping. In fact, when we went down to the riders' briefing this morning, he rode his bicycle. He didn't want to walk. That's how much his left leg was hurting him. Had a huge high side yesterday and then a crash in qualifying right off that turn 1. That's the one that's causing the Superbike guys so much trouble. There is Andrew Stroud just lurking. He really doesn't need to win this race, but I talked to Andrew before the racing started and he said, hey, I'm a racer. If I can win it, I'm going to try and win it. He didn't get the very best of starts, but unfortunately, over the last few years, that's been a bit of a hallmark of the brother Suzuki rider.
He is definitely a racer. I mean, you haven't done what Andrew Stroud's done without being a racer around the world. He's had victories in Europe, the US, all over Australasia, and he's one of New Zealand's best. He's just an absolute legend.
Well, he's a 7-time champion in this class alone, and he's gone up the inside of Robbie Bugden, and Bugden looks over as if to say, how did you do that, Andrew? You're not meant to pass me there, but that's exactly what he's done, and now he's in attack mode for James Smith. He wants to win this, Jamie, make no mistake about it. Back on board here with Sloane Frost. You can see, he's down. Gone. Oh, well, you got a graphic example of it from our onboard camera, and poor old Chopper Frost has laid it down. It's not going to affect these guys too much, but Sloane Frost, any chance he had at Hampton Downs is gone. Look at Stroud just stalking James Smith. They say if you try and outbrake Andrew Stroud, it's going to end up in trouble. And look at the ground just gobbled up between himself and Smith as he tries to stalk the Christchurch runner. Suzuki's 1, 2 and 3 here at Hampton Downs. Race 1 of the Superbikes. Final round of the championship. The titles, the trophy and the prize money doled out after this.
Stroud is working over Smith down into turn number 1. Just looking at the lap times, Phil, and there's not a lot of difference between the 600s and the Supers at the moment. Nick Cole was quickest, and the last one is Frost gets back up on the number 6 bike. Cole was quickest at a 106.2. These guys are in the high 105s at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably throttle control. As I said before, in the 600s, when the bikes get light, they tend to get sideways. And you got around about 180, 190 horsepower at the back wheel, and the bike gets light coming over the brows. It's a brave man that twists the throttle. That's what James Smith is doing. And once again, just like Valentino Rossi does in MotoGP, James Smith puts his foot out. I think he might have been a motocrosser in the previous life.
Great to watch, isn't it? As Andrew Stroud and Bugden side by side. Bugden's going to try and do the crossover.
And Andrew Stroud just holds him out for a little while longer. The Hamiltonian racing well. Arguably New Zealand's most accomplished overseas rider of the current bunch, Hamilton's Andrew Stroud will try for the New Zealand Superbike title number 8 here at the final round. Playing second fiddle to Australian Robbie Bugden for the last 3 years, the father of 7's time to win again is now due. Stroud still working on James Smith as they head down into turn 1 once again.
He is so good out of 1 again. He's going to get this run down into 2, and that's where he picked off Bugden.
He's got it. The brother Suzuki rider goes into the front. The Triple R Mack Truck Suzuki teammates, second and third.
And that's what I said about turn 1. There's 2 different lines. There's probably actually 3, but you've got a passing line and a fast line, and Stroud's really got that passing line working to his advantage.
Well, if you've watched our Superbike coverage over the last few years, you know the battles between Stroud and Bugden is legendary, and Bugden's not going to give this up without a fight. I don't know if there's an Australian that doesn't fight. Boy, this guy from Queensland is. He's passed his teammate now. So James Smith's gone from first to third. Bugden's gone up into second. Now he's in hot pursuit of a very rampant Andrew Stroud.
Well, Bugden's just gone quickest at a 65.907. That's an average lap speed of 152 kilometres an hour. And that's similar speed to a Formula 5000, the likes of Kenny Smith around there. But you compare those times to a Toyota Racing Series car, they're doing 61s. But even so, that's impressive on 2 wheels.
Well, what's even more impressive, we told you 275 clicks on a 600. Try 290 kilometres an hour over the top past the start-finish line here at Hampton Downs.
Phil, I'm going to say one thing and one thing only. These boys are not wide upright.
I think you're right. I think you're right for sure. This battle here, first, second and third. Just got a brief look there at Hayden Fitzgerald, second of the Castrol Honda runners. I told you that Craig Sheriff's had a crash. He's well down at the moment. He's got a bit of work to do. There he is there. Just in behind him, another one of the veteran of the Superbike wars. That's Kumu's Ray Klee. Battle at the moment for 6th and 7th place. Unaccustomed to seeing Craig there, but as I said, he had those 2 bad crashes. And coming off a storming round at the Pyra Battle of the Streets and also at the Manfield round, the penultimate round. So he'll be in a world of hurt, both physically and mentally. Remember, he's in that battle for 3rd place with James Smith, and James Smith at the moment further up the racetrack. Plenty more racing still to come here at Hampton Downs. It's the final of the New Zealand Road Racing Championships. Welcome back to Hampton Downs for the Castrol Power 1 New Zealand Superbike Road Racing Championships. We're down to the business end in the Superbikes. It's 1 to go, and there's less than 2 seconds between these two. There's Robbie Bugden fighting hard in second, but it's the brother Suzuki pilot. There he is, Andrew Stroud, 7 times a national champion in the Superbikes. Will he make it 8 here today?
Well, he's just set a new track record. He's gone a 10th quicker than Robbie Bugden, a 65.883. For Stroud. He's picking up the front wheel. He's starting to have some fun.
Well, I think he is. I think he knows he's done enough because he had a good buffer going in and he really didn't need to win this race. He's done that and he's done it in fine style. So I think he's wrapped up title number 8. Big wheelie up the hill for Andrew Stroud.
Well, he had a 43-point lead going into this race. He only needs to leave this race with a 25-point lead. He's got the advantage over Bugden. He's going to do it here in the first race.
Up the hill for the last time, Andrew Stroud out of Hamilton on the brother Suzuki is going to claim victory in race 1 of 2 in the Superbike. 2nd place will be Robbie Bugden, and in 3rd place it'll be James Smith. 4th place will go to Hayden Fitzgerald on the Honda, and in 5th place, the blast from the past, that's Tony Rees. 6th place went to Ryan Hampton, and in 7th, Craig Sheriff's.
Eight national Superbike titles. What does that mean to you?
That's great. It's always great to win a championship, but really I just love the racing and I love the competition and being on the limit and just pushing myself to the max. That's where I get the enjoyment from, and championship's a bonus.
We've done our best, but unfortunately Andrew had a little bit more than us that race, but this next one for the TT, I'll be giving it some.
You must know that you can do it because you out-qualified Andrew yesterday.
Yeah, I think, there's no reason why we can't, and I think this next one's going to be a little bit longer too, which may suit us, so, we'll just go out there, we'll give it our all, and we'll see where we come in.
There was a bit of an oil spill from the race before us, and I think they put a bit of dust on there, and it was still quite a bit of dust on the track, and just trying to make a move up the inside, and lost the front, unfortunately.
Welcome back to Hampton Downs for the final of the Castrol Power 1 New Zealand Superbike Road Racing Championship. Now, there's an argument that goes on yearly in motorcycling circles, and the argument goes something like this. What is the most prestigious title to win? Is it the national title? Is it the Grand Prix title? Or is it this, the TT title? Well, some say it's a TT title. We'll find out because it's Glenn Scatchell out on the front. in the 600s. Nick Cole shadows him.
There's a few elbows and legs up and behind those guys. There was a fair bit going on through turn number 2. Of course, the New Zealand Grand Prix raced at the opening round of the championship at Powerboat Tools International Raceway in Christchurch.
That's right. I'm pretty sure Nick Cole had a big moment there, but he managed to somehow save it on the Kawasaki. I was just going to say that I think Motorcycling New Zealand does the right thing by bookending each end of the season with prestigious titles. It certainly keeps the racing close, and we got that here in the 600. Once again, Midge Smart, there he is, bike number 53. He's going to play a part in this one. So too number 4, Dennis Charlotte. But out in the front, well, is he going to stay there? Glenn Scatchell, he was absolutely gutted. I tried to talk to him after the first 600 sports production race. He wouldn't talk to us after his crash. Not gutted for himself, but more gutted for his good mate James Smith, because really he's plucked first out of the clutches of James Smith with that accident in turn 1.
Well, effectively, Nick Cole gained 25 points because James was a DNF in that first race, and there was only, 2.5 points between them going into the final round.
That's right, it's as close as you like, and when you take into consideration, we mentioned it before, the protest committee is yet to meet over the incident at Manfield. It was deemed that allegedly James Smith jumped the start. The team have protested that, so it looks like this result might be open-ended for a little while yet.
Mitch Smart having a good run here early. He's got by Cole into the second position.
Well, Smart's a very good rider. As I said before, he came to New Zealand's attention on a 125 a few years ago, but now living in Taranaki, he's done a limited program here at the championships. He tells me next year it's all or nothing. He wants that number 1 plate. I tell you what, Scatchell's getting away here. You often see that, don't you, in motorsport, when the second and third are dicing. Glenn Scatchell and the Museum Hotel Suzuki just starting to pull away a little bit.
Just watching Midge Smart down there through the final corner here. The rear of the bike stepped out under acceleration. Good run up the hill there, and he actually extends over Nick Cole there. Being the longest race of the weekend at 20 laps, just maybe changing the setup for the bikes to come on a little bit later on.
Well, I know there was a lot of change in the Superbike pits in the break between races, and I'm sure there would have been also in the 600 pits as well. That's number 2 there, James Smith. Well, the fight's gone out of James Smith, hasn't it, on the RRR Suzuki Mack Trucks team. He thought he had first wrapped up, didn't he? But it all went wrong in the first race, and now he's just lingering at the back of the field.
Well, Phil, it's continuing to go wrong. I don't know if he knows about it yet, but he's been assessed for a jump start, and that carries a 20-second penalty. He's not alone because the 94 of Dave Manuel in the same boat. So a shocking weekend for Smith continues.
Oh, well, they say when it rains, it pours. It's not raining on Glenn Scatchell at the moment. There is Dave Manuel, number 94. I think he's put together a great series of rides. He certainly was a standout at Pyro, the Yamaha Battle of the Streets, and then he went well in Manfield as well, and he's going good on what is basically now his home track. For years and years and years, we've gone to Pukekohe Park Raceway, and someone said, why don't we try Tony Roberts' track? And what a great decision that was. The crowds are up, the racing's sensational, as you see there. They're battling for 6th and 7th like it's a world championship. Both
of those riders carrying a 20-second penalty. Now, with car racing, the majority of the teams have radios from the teams. So if they get told they've got a penalty, they can talk to their drivers. How do these guys find out? Is it just a board on the pit wall?
Well, that's right, and you'll see it as they come up over the front straight. The mechanic will hang out the board, and it'll tell them either good news or bad news. Normally it'll tell them what lap they're on or what lap they've got to go and the time gaps. Just watching John Ross there on the Hampton Honda-supported Yamaha. Great camaraderie in the South Island. John couldn't get up and do the North Island rounds, but Hampton Honda came to the party and said, listen, you travel up with us, we'll make it a party while we're here.
So good close battles right through the field. In the case of Smith at this stage of the weekend, does the team even bother telling him he's got a 20-second penalty?
Well, I would say he's probably got a fair bit running through his mind at the moment. He's in that close battle for 3rd place, the last step on the podium in the Superbikes. I think now he's going through the motions and someone else is gone. Oh, he waves to the crowd. What about that?
Jay Lawrence.
Well, unfortunately for Jay, he's no stranger to crashing. But poor old Jay's done it again. He's on his R6 Yamaha. In the Formula 3 races, he races a Haisong, which is a Korean motorcycle we haven't seen too much of racing around New Zealand. But that was on his R6, and he's come to grief. But this time, thankfully, Jay's in one piece.
How was the style points with the wave?
Well, as I said, unfortunately, Jay's done that a few times. He coming off a nasty injury at last year's Ruapuna rounds. Taken him a long time to get right. There is number 5. There's Nick Cole. He's on the Kawasaki. He's sitting in 2nd place. Behind him is Midge Smart on the Yamaha. There he is, bike number 53. And out in the front, it's Glenn Scatchell. So there is Scatchell, bike number 47, the Museum Hotel sponsored Suzuki GSXR 600cc machine. Made the move up from Formula 3 to 600s this year, and it's been a good one for him. Plenty more racing to come in the TT for the 600s. Welcome back to Hampton Downs for the Castrol Power 1 New Zealand Superbike Road Racing Championship for 2010. We are watching an enthralling battle here. James Smith and number 9, and that is John Ross. James Smith from Christchurch, John Ross from Southland.
James unfortunately carrying a 20-second penalty for a jump start at the beginning of this race, the New Zealand TT for the 600 Sports Productions.
That battle on your screen is at the moment for 5th and 6th place. Up and over the top they come, as I said before, 275 kilometres an hour, blind over the brow and then hard on the brakes down through the gearbox for this difficult off-camber corner. You can hear the 600s protesting as they go down through the gearbox. Ross and Smith, well, they probably grew up together racing. And behind them, Dennis Charlotte. There's Sam Love as well. Love on the Yamaha this season, raced on an SV650 Suzuki last year in the Pro Twins class. Dennis Charlotte back on his customary Suzuki, bike number 4. As you heard Jamie say, past 600 Sports Production Champion of New Zealand, raced extensively in Australia.
So this is the battle on track for the 6th and 7th spots, but they were both looked again with a 20-second penalty for Smith just up ahead.
Great camera shots here from this amazing circuit at Hampton Downs. It is the final round of 5. We kicked it off at Ruapuna. That was the New Zealand Grand Prix title. This is the final round at Hampton Downs, and this is the TT.
How good is this track going to be, Phil, when they extend the back straight?
Well, that's what everyone was talking about, Jamie. Everyone was raving about it. The bike guys said that it was the best track they've ever raced on, and then Tony Roberts came up to them and said, well, we're going to extend it. We're going to make it even better.
And they're not the only ones looking forward to that. This wonderful new complex at Hampton Downs. Nick Cole just stepping the back of the bike out under brakes.
And he's chasing this man. This is Glenn Scatchell from Wellington. As I said, he rode Formula 3 last year, and he came to prominence with a devastating performance at the last round at Pukekohe. He was riding an Aussie Performance Suzuki. Under Formula 3 rules, you can't have a multi-cylinder engine bigger than 400cc. So what they did, they effectively took the spark plug, took all the crank material, conrod piston, out of the 4-cylinder Suzuki 600, which effectively made it a 400. So then it complied with the rules. Still fast, still able to handle well. Plenty of aftermarket suspension bits for it as well. And it was a winning combination for Scatchell. Now he's on the Museum Hotel sponsored Aussie Performance Suzuki in the 600 class, and he's already into the lap traffic here in the TT. This is going to be a significant win for this young man.
Well, even more significant, he's the only one, certainly in the top flight, on Continental tyres, with the majority of the rest of the field on Dunlops.
That's right, there's always a tyre war in motorcycling, well, I guess in any form of motorsport. But Continental, they're the new boys on the block, really.
This is the last lap, Phil.
So it is number 47, Scatchell. 158, Phil Endine is spared the ignominy of the lapping, and Scatchell's happy, punches the air. In 2nd place it will be Nick Cole, and in 3rd place it'll be Yamaha's Mid-Smart. 4th place will go to Carl Morgan. He redeems himself after a crash in race number 1, and in 5th it's John Ross on the Yamaha. 6th place is the veteran Dennis Charlotte.
The track's covered in oil from the sidecar spill earlier, and it must have been affecting the other guys a lot more than it was for me. The Conti race attacks just straight over them, no worries. I could just gas it up and the shoe hooked up and drove awesome. Like the whole weekend, you know, the Museum Hotel Suzuki's been working fantastic. You know, I dare say if we didn't have that mishap in the first race, we would have been dicing for the lead. So it's racing, you know, I can't help but say sorry to Jimmy, and you know, from deep down in my heart, that was a big mistake on my half, and it's really cost him. So big sorry, but happy to bring home the TT.
Well, he's a happy man in the Museum Hotel pits, but there's a happier man in the Kawasaki pits, and that's Hamilton's Nick Cole, because he has taken his first national title on 187.5 points. James Smith will be 2nd on 147 again, and John Ross will be 3rd on 140. 4th place will be Carl Morgan. So we're into the last race of the day. This is the Superbikes, this is the TT, and the last chance, Jamie, for Robbie Bugden to, well, recover a bit of pride here at Hampton Downs.
Well, you heard him talk about it in the interview after the first race. He wanted to put it all on the line here to try and win the final race of the championship and the series.
And Once again, we're riding on board there with Sloane Frost. I think just going across him there was Ryan Hampton on the privateer Honda. This is what's happening at the front of the field. James Smith, he's got lightning starts all day. He's leading them.
Sloane Frost will not want to repeat the effort in race number 1 where he put the bike down, and he alluded to the fact that there was a lot of oil and debris on the racetrack from some blow-ups over the weekend from other classes. You can just see how much oil dry is around the motor racing circuit.
Well, we had a huge explosion of the Yamaha engine in Pete the Pirate's sidecar, and unfortunately he didn't know that it had gone. It actually burst into flames. There was quite a delay between that incident and this race, so these guys have gone out and done a couple of extra precautionary laps just to see that there's not too much oil about. Now they've decided they're good to go, but there is a lot of oil dry, as you mentioned.
Smith is the race leader here, chased by Bugden. So keep an eye on Andrew Stroud, the new and 8-time New Zealand Superbike champion.
Well, I wouldn't look for Andrew in the first lap because notoriously he hasn't had good starts most of the season, but he'll be there or thereabouts. 61 is Hayden Fitzgerald. For the first time this season, he's leading his teammate pretty comprehensively. Craig Sheriffs, remember, riding injured, but he's in a battle with James Smith. That's Smith in the 77 for third, the last step on the podium. So you can guarantee if those two get together, there'll be some fireworks.
Stroud was in that group with Fitzgerald. There he is there. He's back up into the 4th position. So not a great start for Stroudy, but as you alluded to, Phil, he's not the world's greatest starter, but come the end of the race, watch out, he will be there.
And Jamie, did you see who else was in that group? Bike number 11, his old racing number, Tony Rees, past New Zealand Superbike road racing champion. There he is on the bog stock R1 Yamaha. They've taken the headlight out of it since the Pyro Battle of the Streets, but it is completely stock standard. Yamaha said they needed a presence in the Superbikes, and they called on the veteran, Tony Rees. There he is, number 11, just in behind Craig Sheriffs at the moment.
Yeah, Sheriffs ailing with a couple of offs during the weekend, but he's got a good run here early in the race for the TT. Again, over 20 laps, the longest race distance of the weekend.
Look at this, the Suzuki, the meat and the sandwich of the Hondas of Fitzgerald and Sheriffs. You just get the feeling that Andrew Stroud just waiting to pounce. He dives to the inside. Will he try and drive up the inside and then hold it tight round turn 1? Can't do it this time round.
That's a great shot up over the top of the hill. Those things are flying on the front straight here at Hampton Downs.
And I know we mentioned it a few times, but we can't reiterate it enough. It's blind going over there at nearly 300 kilometres an hour. You're not too sure. I talked to Craig before the racing, and he said what caught him out was he came over the top and he just saw concrete wall. He didn't see any of the gravel trap. He didn't see any of the corner, and he thought, gee, I better haul this thing down. And unfortunately, it high-sided and spat him off in a big way.
Well, he hasn't been the only one. There's been a few car classes having the same issues, and it comes down to the drag race to the line at the end of the race. And because this start-finish line is so far down the track, you do the big last gasp effort and forget to brake and go off into the kiddie litter. And there's been some fairly significant accidents so far since the debut of this new motor racing circuit.
Yeah, well, all the guys were warned by Chris Costello at the riders' briefing about that very fact. They said, don't do a last gasp pass, don't do a do or die, because you might come unstuck. There is Tony Rees. Great to see Tony back. Him and his wife Vicky do such a lot for motorcycling. Their son Mitchell races motocross. Their other son wants to race road racing. So Tony's got a whole lot more motorcycling in his future. Of course, he runs a motorcycle shop. Stroud's got up the inside of Hayden Fitzgerald. And Hayden Fitzgerald's towing his teammate Craig Sheriffs with him. So slowly but surely, Craig, the veteran from fielding, he's starting to get toward the front of this field. But so too is that man, the 8-time New Zealand champion now.
Stroud is so good out of turn number 1 on the run to 2. Just about every one of his passes has been down that part of the course. So once he gets to the likes of Smith and Bugden, watch for that part of the track to come into fruition as the 2 Honda teammates go at it out of the hairpin.
One thing that anybody that knows a little bit about motorcycling will tell you about Andrew Stroud is he is super, super smooth. He never gets ruffled. 9 times out of 10 we've seen him arrive late at the start of meetings because he's been so relaxed he's been asleep in the back of his van. That's how unaffected he is by nerves, but when he's on the bike that just transfers into fast, smooth motion. Back on board here with Sloane Frost coming up the front straight. There are the apartment buildings, so across the start-finish line. Now it's hard on the brakes, down through the gearbox. Oh, and Frosty's run it a little bit wide there. And that's allowed Tony Rees to slip up the inside of him. So the veteran picks up another spot. Let's just see what it takes to get around Hampton Downs here. You're riding with Sloane Frost on the big Suzuki. Just listen to the way he just rolls on the throttle. You don't snap the throttle open on these things. 61, Hayden Fitzgerald. Tony Rees wants to come back at him, and Sloane Frost has run it wide again, and Rees will come back. Drives it down the inside. Has he got the power to do it? Yes, he has. Are we going to see Rees slip up the inside here? It's so close. Terminal velocity, 290 kilometres an hour. Past the stripe. That's a lap at Hampton Downs, this amazing circuit. Come back after the break and see what's going to happen in the TT, the final stanza of the Superbike Championship. Welcome back to Hampton Downs. We're in the middle of the TT for the Superbikes. There is number 11. This is Tony Rees. He's in the Open Sports Production Superbike Championship, if you like. You're back on board here with Sloane Chopper Frost on the Suzuki.
So this battle group here, Phil, is for 5th, 6th and 7th.
Well, you're getting a graphic look at it from the ambient here. Suzuki of Sloane Frost.
You see the front wheel come up out of the previous turn to the hairpin.
Yeah, well, 190 horsepower, not too much weight. And remember, these are essentially road-going machines. Really all they do is they change the fairings, they do a little bit of tweaking to the motor under the rules, but there's not much you can do. So you can expect this sort of performance on the road, which is scary. 77, James Smith, just starting to fall back through the field a little bit.
Well, he's back into the clutches of Craig Sheriffs, who's on the move, so that's 3rd and 4th.
He had a look. They know what's at stake here. 3rd place, last step on the podium. Sheriffs drives up the inside on the Castrol Honda, goes through. Can Smith do anything about it?
How many looks did he have? Had about 4 goes at seeing Craig Sheriffs on the way past.
Now, remembering that Craig Sheriffs is driving or riding injured, he's got problems with his left foot. James Smith, well, psychologically, he'd be a bit down. He lost any chance of the title in the 600 class. Now he's in a fight, and it's a real dogfight for 3rd. And Sheriff's just starting to get away a little bit here.
Just up ahead, Andrew Stroud's just set the fastest lap of the race, a 64.6. He's just smashed his lap record he set in the first race, and he's the only rider in the 64-second bracket.
Well, once he found clear traffic, he was gone, wasn't he? And once again, we talk about a tyre war. We've got a tyre war unfolding in front of your very eyes. 77, James Smith from Christchurch. Bit of a tyre war, as we said. Dunlop's for Smith, Pirelli's for Craig Sheriff. The battle for 3rd in the championship, the battle for 3rd on the racetrack. This is the man leading, number 1, Robbie Bugden, just picking his way through some of the lap traffic. Kenneth Christensen gets put a lap down on the 750 Suzuki. Bugden on the 1000, remember. He's a teammate of James Smith. Red Fenton very happy with the performances of Robbie Bugden. They've had some mechanical issues this season, but there's nothing you can really do about that.
Well, can he do anything about Andrew Stroud? Because Stroudy is on the hunt in the number 2, the new number 1.
That's right, it's Brother Suzuki versus Triple R Suzuki. Both of them get lots of support from Suzuki, and you see the slightly different lines, and I think Stroud's got a run on him here. He has.
Oh, huge run. Bugden looked like he got a little bit out of shape out of the hairpin.
Well, I thought he was going to look over and say, after you, Andrew, but that's not the way we've seen from Robbie Bugden. You don't win 3 Superbike titles by doing that sort of thing. Now he's back onto the program.
Right now he's got 4 tenths in outright lap speed on Bugden. Bugden has not got into the 64-second bracket.
Geez, you know, don't you, when you get caught and passed, you know the guy that passed is going a whole lot quicker, and that's the story with Andrew Stroud. He can't put a foot wrong.
Well, the lap record he just smashed, he did a 65.8 in race 1. He's just done a 64.6, 1.2 seconds quicker than his fastest lap from race 1.
I asked him before the racing started what was the difference this season. He said, well, I'm older. He's 42 now. He said, I'm doing it for the old blokes. He said, we've changed our Pirelli tyres. We've got a different tyre on the back of the bike. I'm more at home with that. Plus, he said he just thought he wouldn't let Robbie have 4 titles. And that's exactly as it's panned out. Bugden, 3 times the New Zealand champion. Going to be content with 2nd this time round.
Andrew Stroud's, he was the 7-time champ. He's got 7 kids. He's now won 8. What does that mean for the future?
Well, he actually said, and I hope it was tongue-in-cheek, I feel for his wife Karen, that he said maybe an 8th child as a celebration. We'll wait and see.
God forbid if he wins 10.
Well, he said before that he'd like 10 children, so you never know. He said he's got no intentions of retiring. All the media asked him, is that it? Is 8 good enough? And he said, no, he said, I love racing, I want to keep going. And that's what he's doing here in the TT as the laps wind down. Stroud in the front, Bugden in second. That enthralling battle for third. Sheriffs and Smith. North Island versus South Island. Honda versus Suzuki. Who's it going to be?
Stroud, ever smooth. Two very different lines there through the hairpin. As you said, Phil, Bugden wheels up out of the hairpin.
And
just wondering if
he's starting to put on him here, Jamie.
Just wondering if Bugden's maybe not getting into some tyre troubles.
Well, the other thing you've got to listen for, and you'll hear it as they come up over the front straight now, Bugden's big Suzuki's right on the rev limiter. I asked him before, did he change the gearing between races? He said they've done lots of changes. They've changed the fork settings. They've changed the rear tyre, all in an effort to keep this man behind him. None of it's worked.
Pretty much identical bikes, but it all comes down to setup, and Stroud does look a lot more comfortable out there on the racetrack right now.
Well, he certainly does, and he can owe a lot of that to Ray Clee. Ray Clee builds his engines. Ray in this field, of course, back down in 8th place at the moment. Andrew has a look behind. It's not often you see Andrew Stroud do that either.
Well, he's just seen the last lap ball. He is on his last lap. He's won his 8th New Zealand Superbike Championship, looking for another TT. I'm not even going to try and count those.
Well, yeah, there's a few of them. There's a few of them for the man from Hamilton originally, then he went to Christchurch, and he came up to Auckland, and he's back in Hamilton. He's an 8-time New Zealand title holder on the Superbikes, and he's going to win the TT as well unless something happens, and I don't think that's going to happen. The brother Suzuki's been more than reliable all season long, and he's ridden the wheels off it. Bugden, well, he's going to come up one short in the title and in the TT. He's going to finish second, and what's going to happen in third? Is it going to be Sheriffs or is it going to be Smith? I'd love to see what's going on for third place at the moment.
Wheel stand and celebration for Andrew Stroud. He takes the TT.
Robbie Bugden will finish in second place. And oh, is this the outcome for third? Craig Sheriffs and also James Smith both have come down. Sheriffs can't believe it, but I think he knows he's done enough. I think he's pipped James Smith for the last step on the podium, and that's the way the judges saw it as well. So Andrew Stroud gets the win in the all-important TT. Robbie Bugden is second. Craig Sheriffs finished third, and that clinches him the final step on the podium for the national title.
It's been a fantastic season. It's great having Robbie here as well. Really appreciate it. The last 4 years or so, it's made the racing super intense and really lifted it up a level for me, especially. I've had to really, dig within myself a bit to find it, and then, it's good when it's there.
I guess it's tough to relinquish the number one plate after 3 years.
Yeah, it is though, but like I say, Stroudy's been riding awesome all this year. You know what I mean? He's been consistent, which is one thing we haven't been, and he's just wanted that a little bit more. So, full congratulations to him. He deserves it, and he's a good guy. If I was going to pass it to anyone, I suppose it's going to have to be him.
Just basically a big drag race up to the start-finish line, but unfortunately on a Superbike the braking is quite a bit before the start-finish line, but I don't think anyone wanted to shut off, so it was the last race of the season. Thought, oh well, the bike's, it can be fixed, so I just held it on, and he did the same, and I think he just pipped me, and we both ended up in the dirt, but it was quite funny really.
We both won at third, like whoever got third in the race got third in the championship as well, so it was do or die basically, and I was so excited when it got across the line, and then I realised I'm not going to stop, and then I thought I'll probably fall off and hit the fence and get hurt or something crazy, but I just sort of fell off in the sand, and it was good. I'm very
Is that the hardest third place you've had?
Oh, it's probably the hardest bloody race I've ever had, I think.
So in the final points, it is Andrew Stroud on 228, Robbie Bugden from Australia on 175. But look at the gap for third and fourth. Craig Sheriff's 139, James Smith just 2 points shy on 137.